Hey, welcome back to Crimes and Closets. This is Christy in my closet in St. Louis.
And this is Beth in my closet in North Carolina.
Good morning, Beth. Happy Monday.
Good morning. Happy Monday. It's funny to say that. We've been working all day. And it's
Uh,
actually like 2 o'clock my time.
Right.
But
And
good
it's not
morning.
Monday.
It's not Monday. It's Friday here in the closet.
Woo!
Yay. Friday.
I know. Oh, gosh, I'm so glad that the weekend is here.
Mm-hmm.
Hubby's been gone all week, been busy trying to keep up with everything. So I'm just glad to have Actually, he's not home until late. So I actually this is going to be the first night this week that I have to myself. I mean, I have the kids, but that I can like sit and veg on the
Mm-hmm.
couch and ignore them.
I know. What are you going to do? Are you going to play games with Kelly?
Yes.
I knew it. Maybe
Yes.
I'll join.
Okay. Yay.
We'll see. I have a big box full of crawfish on my porch that I have to deal
Mm.
with before I
Mhm.
can before I can play games. So
Yes. Yeah. Deal with that.
we ordered some no. It was a whole thing, but there's a box of crawfish from Louisiana on my front porch that I need to figure out whose problem it's gonna be. It's not mine.
I'm the problem. It's me.
Oh my gosh, 1 week.
Oh, that's right. Yes.
Saturday or no,
Oh.
Sunday. Sunday.
How
It's here.
exciting.
It's
How
here. I'm
exciting.
gonna see my Taylor. Cannot wait. Okay. I have to tell you a funny story that I saw on our local news the other day. We have a very high security prison in North Carolina in
Mhm.
Butner,
Mhm.
and it houses the likes of Bernie Madoff. And guess who's there now?
Oh my gosh. Murdaugh.
No. No, not that good. But R. Kelly.
Oh.
R. Kelly is in Butner.
Can you get on his visitor list?
I'm gonna tell you, I can probably because I have a friend who works at the prison.
Ooh, is that the old
You
neighbor?
know him, yes.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
you don't know him, you know of
Yep.
him, but
Mhm.
he works there at Butner. And so I saw this on the news and I texted him and was like, my dude, what do you need to tell me? What do you know? How's it going down there with Kelly? With my dude R. Kelly. What's going on?
Oh my gosh.
I
You know
know.
what's funny about that you mentioned that? When
What?
my friend Kelly came to visit in February, we were all sitting around on the couch chatting, and she started mentioning, like, what's the song? Oh my gosh, what's one of the songs that he sings?
Well, there's a lot.
I know, but anyway, she
Down
mentioned
low. Down low.
it could be. It could be. It could be
Mhm.
any one of those. But anyway, she mentioned something about it, and Emery was like, "I can't believe you're a fan of, like, a child molester," or whatever it was, like, I don't even know what he's
Uh-huh.
in for, but if that's the case, I have no idea. But and she's like, "Well, I just like his music, I don't like him," and they literally fought about this. She's like, "It's just a song, I don't like him." Anyway.
Well, maybe I should maybe as a joke, I should get an autograph for Kelly and be like, "You're his biggest fan, right?"
She would die. She would
I'm doing
die.
it. Stay tuned. Stay
Okay.
tuned.
All
Connections.
right. Yeah.
Okay, that was my
Okay.
news. That's our local crime. We
Crime
got we
update.
Yep.
We do have a Patreon. Who's our new Patreon? You always have the
Our new
name.
Patreon, Bridget L. Welcome in.
Welcome, Bridget. Thanks for supporting us. We really
Thank you so
appreciate it.
much.
Mhm.
Yeah, we've got some fun things going on over there, so
Yeah, I know. I can't wait to pick my next Patreon case. I forgot that I'm gonna have to do that.
TikTok.
Am I May? I may.
Yes, but we
Anyways.
will see you the Friday before I go see Taylor. We're
Oh
gonna do our
yes.
little chit chat Friday,
Oh
fun
yes.
Friday. So
Fun Friday.
I don't
Yeah.
even know if I'll be able to contain myself.
Well, I know that's probably that's well, not probably. That is more exciting than what I'm about to do this Sunday,
I
but
know it.
I'm going to have to post with like about this, but I'm going to see Janet Jackson on
You're
Sunday
gonna
night.
love it. I saw
Yeah.
her a couple years ago. She is amazing.
I'm excited. I
She
mean, I
still
haven't
brings
listened
it.
to anything since probably 1996 or something, but I mean, still.
Rhythm Nation.
Yeah, I'm gonna be singing that song and a few others that I remember, but if she had anything more recent than that, I'll probably be, like, bopping around like, "Okay, don't
You're
know."
gonna have fun. Are you going with girlfriends?
Yeah, like 5 girls from the neighborhood.
Oh, so fun.
Mhm,
That's gonna be
yeah,
awesome. Yeah, you'll have to post.
so I will, because I bought a hat, and I don't know if I'm gonna wear it yet, but I might.
You should wear it. It's
We'll
cute.
see.
It's very Janet J.
Yes, it is. Except one of the other girls bought the same thing.
That's
Same hat.
okay.
I know,
That's all
I
right.
know, I know, and she also bought earrings that have keys on them.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Wow. I'm annoyed that you did not think of that first.
I totally didn't it didn't even enter my mind. She, like, had to zoom in on, like, a screenshot of Janet Jackson just so I could and I was like, "Oh, right." I'm like, "Why are you buying those keys?" So, anyway, should be fun weekend, fun stuff coming up, but I
R.
don't know.
Kelly.
R. Kelly, crime. But I guess if we wanna get into some murder, we can?
Let's do that.
Okay, here we go.
Down low.
Okay, so
And go.
and go. This story that I'm about to tell you about, this case I'm about to tell you about, was sent to us from or by Sandy over on Facebook, and she
Okay.
has sent us other ones in the past.
Hello, Sandy. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. She sent it to us actually back in January. Um, oh, she actually sent us. I was just talking to you about this right before we got on. She sent us the Melissa and Megan story from Essex
Mhm.
Junction, Vermont,
Yeah.
that we did.
Okay.
And because she grew up there. And so this story, we're heading back to the same area, to Burlington, Vermont, which was the
Gosh.
neighboring town, essentially, which is where those boys that killed one of those young girls, was living at the time.
Interesting. Vermont.
Yeah.
So not on anybody's radar.
Yeah. Hmm.
Hmm.
And this one was like, I mean, huge for them at the time, and was like their biggest, longest cold case.
Oh no.
So, yeah, it's kind of crazy to me. But anyway, I'm not surprised right now knowing what I know. But anyway, okay. So this is the case of the murder of Rita Curran, or Curran,
Okay.
Curran, Curran.
I would say Curran.
Yeah. Rita was born on June 21st, 1947 in Brooklyn, New York, to Thomas and Mary Curran.
Hmm.
Rita had a brother named Tom and a sister named Mary. I don't really know the order of which. I know
Hmm.
that Rita was Mary's big sister, but I don't know where Tom fits.
You know what? Rita is a great name.
I like the name Rita.
I love the name Rita. I feel like everyone named Rita is cool.
S- Yes. Well, I don't know that I know any Ritas. I know
I
Rita's
know
Italian Isis.
Very cool. See
That
what I did
is,
there?
yes, I do. I do see it. I do see it. I don't think I know a Rita. No.
Well, I like a
Mhm.
Rita.
Okay. Okay. Good. I like a margarita. Sorry. Okay. Tangent.
See?
Okay.
Great name.
Okay. Okay. At some point, this family moves to Vermont. Not sure when. Thomas, dad, was a zoning administrator for the community, and the family also owned a diner and had several rental cabins on Arrowhead Mountain. Which, when I looked that up, it kept saying it was like out in Washington State, and I was like, why would they own? I mean, I know that it's not uncommon for people to own rental, but I feel like at this time, did you really own rental property like across the country from you?
Mhm.
So anyway, there is an Arrowhead Mountain, like, river in the Vermont area. And so
Okay.
I'm assuming that that's where they own their rental properties. Not that it has any bearing on this story whatsoever.
Okay.
But you know me, I go into this like map mode and like have to
I
find out
know.
all the things. Anyway, so Rita and Mary, her sister, loved music. Rita enjoyed tap dancing, and apparently she was also a talented singer.
Tap dancing.
Yes.
Love.
Yes, I used to tap dance. Actually, my sister tap danced a lot longer than I did, but I did try it at some point. She graduated from Trinity College, and then she became a beloved second grade teacher at Milton Elementary School in Milton, Vermont.
Cool. She
Dur-
sounds like exactly like I picture a Rita.
Yes, she does. I mean, I don't have a picture of a Rita apparently, but she does. She looks like Rita.
Okay.
During the summer of 1971, when she was 24 years old, she moved out of her parents' home for the first time ever.
Mhm.
She saw an ad in a local newspaper looking for a roommate, so she went for it. She moved into 17 Brooks Avenue in Burlington with a few roommates: Beverly, Carrie, and Paul. I think that Carrie and Paul were together, but I don't know that for a fact. But I do know that they shared a bedroom in
Okay.
this apartment. But so did Rita and Beverly.
Mhm. Okay.
So, but I'm pretty sure that it's Carrie and Paul were together.
Okay. Like a couple, you mean, right?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, yes. Because there's actually a couple articles. I mean, in the police report I read, they were all roommates. And a couple of the articles, it was like Paul was just staying there. Like there was only two roommates, and then Paul was just always there. But in the police report, they were all roommates. So
Okay.
anyway, to give you a better picture of this, this was a house. Like when I went on Google Maps, you can see like the whole street is just lined with these like kind of, I don't know. I don't know the difference between like colonial and like other, but I would say these are colonial type houses.
Okay.
And they're tall, like they're 3 levels. And so there was an apartment on the main level, then there was an apartment on the second floor, and then there was a third floor apartment. And they all had their own entrances somewhere like
Okay.
on the house. Okay. The first level was where Rita and her roommates lived. On the second level was a group of 4 girls: Sally, Jerry, Leslie, and Diane. And up on the third floor was William and Michelle DeRuse. They were newlyweds who had just moved into the building not long ago. And honestly, Rita had just moved in like a month before that, too. I don't know how long everybody else was living there.
Okay.
Rita's plan for the summer was to attend graduate school at the University of Vermont, or at least classes. I don't know if she was going to finish in that summer, but she was starting to attend classes at the University of Vermont. And she also had a job at the South Burlington Colonial Motor Inn as a maid.
Okay.
Side note to this motor inn, by the way, is I'm not sure if you knew this, but you may have. Ted Bundy was born in Burlington, Vermont.
No.
You didn't know that? Okay. I didn't either. Found out through this story. And,
Again, Vermont.
uh-huh,
Not on anybody's radar. We need to
no,
pay more attention.
right. And he was born in the Elizabeth Lund Home for Unwed Mothers, which is right next to this motor inn. So,
Wow. All right.
anyway. And he,
Coincidence. Did he kill Rita?
well, he's tied to this
Oh
case in,
no.
but no, he didn't, but he's tied. So, and interestingly enough, this home is still open. It's just called like Lund. I can't remember what it's called. It's not Home for Unwed Mothers, but they kind
I
of,
would hope not, because that's a little bit disrespectful of a name.
right. They
All the
do
time.
do some of the same kinds of services though. They do
Hmm.
help
Hmm.
that population of people.
It's like a women's center, probably,
Yes.
or
Mhm.
family center. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm sure they didn't want to have that like specific name anymore once it was like, well, Ted Bundy was born there. But anyway,
Hmm.
so also I said that she was a good singer or a talented singer. She was apparently part of a barbershop quartet in
Cool.
Burlington. Yeah, how fun is this? I mean, man. Anyway, and then in the 70s, so fun. On July 19th, 1971, it was a typical day for Rita. In the evening, she had practice with her quartet until around 10 p.m. She came home and got ready for bed, curlers and all. Remember those curlers that you used to put in your, well, I don't know.
Oh, you
I used to
slept
put
in them? The
curlers.
spongy ones?
Yeah, I think that's what they were because she put them in before bed. So I can't imagine that they were like metal, but I don't know.
Mm. Right.
Carrie and Paul had gone out for the night. They went out to dinner, late dinner. Around 11:15, the two had called Beverly and told her, "Hey, come out and meet us for a drink at this local bar." So Beverly did. Rita was already in bed and asleep.
Okay.
So the three of them came home around 12:30 in the morning and sat in the living room for a little bit just to chat. And then a little bit after 1, they all decided, okay, it's time to go to bed. Beverly, who shares the room with Rita, entered the bedroom and saw Rita lying on the floor, badly beaten and blood all around her.
Oh no.
She yelled for her roommates, and they all came running in, and they ended up calling the police. Authorities arrived on the scene close to 1:30 in the morning. They immediately sat the roommates down to question them and told them And they just let them know, this is what happened this evening. This is what time I got the phone call. I left, came home, hung out, found her. When they figured out the timing, they were like really concerned because they were like, well, basically, someone had about 70 minutes to find Rita in this apartment by herself,
Mhm.
alone, brutally attack her, and then leave the premises before the roommates came home.
Oh my gosh, this has given me like the Idaho murder vibes.
Right?
Where yeah,
Yeah.
that's
And
crazy. Except
and
they
not
were all but not all of them were murdered.
right. Yeah. Well, they weren't there. But
Right.
and also kind of not leave enough like of a footprint. Like there wasn't obvious signs that something had happened when they came home, because they came home and sat in the living room and just hung out. So basically it was like contained to the bedroom.
Mhm.
So they immediately and it's also, it wasn't like it was a regular outing that somebody was like watching and they're like, oh, they always go out at this time and she's
Mhm.
always home alone. Like this was a spur of the moment thing and whatnot. So this person had to happen to upon Rita home by herself. So they go ahead and check all the other people who live in the building. The 4 girls upstairs either did not answer because maybe they were sleeping and didn't hear, or they were not home yet because this is, early in the morning hours.
Mhm.
They go upstairs to the 3rd floor, and Michelle answers the door and stated that the couple had been home all night together and that she had not heard anything strange. And William had not mentioned anything to her that he had heard anything or seen anything strange. So she's like, we don't know if anything happened. Police found Rita lying on her back with her legs spread, completely nude.
Mm.
Her clothes were crumbled, or some of her clothes were crumbled up and like in between her, like just lying on the floor in between her legs. Her face was very swollen, specifically on the left side, and it had started to discolor and she had blood all over her face.
Mm.
They took many pictures. Now, this is the 70s, so like
Yeah.
stating some specific details because I was like, wow, they really took care in preserving this scene and doing what they needed to do to collect evidence. So, anyway, they took a lot of pictures of the crime scene. And like I said, did a really good job keeping it secure and intact so that they could collect it. And when the medical examiner arrived, he also observed her severely beaten in the face. She was lying on her back with her arms spread like apart altogether. Her
Mm.
legs and butt were propped up and spread.
Oh
Her
my god.
hair, yeah, her hair was disheveled and like kind of in her face a little bit. And lots of hair was all over the floor surrounding her as if it had been pulled out by her attacker, mainly because those rollers had been like pulled out
Oh.
and like strewn about the room. So like pieces of her hair were for sure coming out
Right.
with that.
Oh yeah.
She was wearing a red and white dotted house coat, which had been ripped off and buttons were on the ground nearby. Her nightgown had also been ripped off of her and it was kind of underneath her. The lower part of her nightgown was ripped completely away from the rest of it and was just kind of over by the closet on the floor. So this is like violent and she's putting up
Mhm.
a big
Struggle.
fight. Um
Mm.
Sheets and bedspread and a blanket were kind of partially wrapped around one of her legs. I don't really know how that would have happened except if like they
Well,
were
if she
struggling
was
on the
in
bed.
bed and pulled out of bed
Right. Yeah.
and kicking.
Mhm. Her underwear had been also ripped off of her. All of these things were bagged and retained as evidence. There was some blood on the at first they weren't gonna take the blankets, but then there was some blood on some of the blankets, so then they took those. In her left hand, there were several strands of hair, as if she had pulled them out of her attacker's head,
Okay.
and there was also one strand in her right hand. So all of that was bagged as evidence,
Mhm.
and her hair, or her own hair taken so that they could compare it clearly.
Mhm.
When the medical examiner took her to complete the autopsy, the police also asked them to make sure that they'd got samples from underneath her fingernails and also to get samples of her pubic hair and whatnot.
Mhm.
So
Also, I just want to say now that you've described that horrific scene that I looked a picture up of her and she is real deep. She's cute.
she is. She looked like
She's
Rita.
real cute. She's got real pretty eyes.
Mm-hmm.
Big, bright eyes. And I just
Mm-hmm.
wanted to say that.
Okay. Yeah. Yes, she was very cute.
Yeah.
Her hair. I mean, it's totally 70s, but yeah,
Yes.
super pretty.
She's yes.
Yeah. It had appeared to everyone at the scene that, like I had said, Rita had put up a huge fight. The curtain from the window, along with the curlers being pulled out and strewn across the room, the curtain from the window was torn down and on the floor. Police also found a cigarette butt on the ground next to her that had been dropped and burned out on the floor. So it like kind of just like made this like hole. Cause I want to say they also cut a piece of that carpet out where it had burned
Mhm.
out and
Did
bagged
she
it for
smoke?
evidence. She did not.
Okay.
And neither did Beverly, according
Okay.
to all the roommates. So that's my next statement was that they all questioned the roommates and they're like, does anybody smoke in here? And Paul does. And they're like, well, what brand do you smoke? Because this butt was a lark. Have you ever heard of lark?
Uh, no, I don't. I mean, no.
No, I've never heard of that. Not that I'm a huge smoker, but like,
You're not a smoker at all.
well, no. I mean, I definitely had some in college and stuff like that, but like I know the major brands and Pall Mall Reds because that's what my dad smoked.
Oh gosh. Is
No,
that a
I know.
major brand? Pall Mall Reds?
I
Pall
don't
Mall
even
is, right?
know.
Yeah.
Pall Mall is, and it's a red thing, so I think we just called
Okay.
them Pall Mall Reds. I don't think that's what they were called. Anyways, doesn't matter. Okay, so they asked Paul, they're like, "Well, what brand do you smoke?" Because these are like they knew it was a specific brand, and he said that he smoked Salem's, Benson and Hedges, and at times
Mhm.
Winston's, which I
I
always thought
know
it
all
was.
of those.
I do know all of them, and I thought, oh my gosh, it just hit me because I was like, well, "Aren't Salem's and Winston's the same?" No, I'm thinking of Winston Salem, like
North
that
Carolina.
too.
Okay.
Okay. Anyway, so they had determined that this brand was Lark and that Paul clearly did not smoke that kind. They didn't tell him that. They were just like, "What kind of
Mhm.
cigarettes do you smoke?"
These
So,
investigators seem great. They seem a little ahead of their time, in my
uh,
opinion.
100%, 100%.
Great, good. So this is gonna end great. I'm excited.
Eventually, yeah. Mhm.
Oh no.
So police also find some blood on the front door, like a little bit, like, and figured it must have been transferred from whoever ran from the house because they were like, "Rita's in such bad shape. There's no chance that she was able to
Bless
make it
her
to the door."
heart. What happened to you, Rita?
I know. The autopsy report revealed that the cause of death was asphyxia by manual
Mm,
strangulation. They found a fracture of her hyoid bone, hemorrhaging of her neck
mhm,
muscles, multiple hemorrhaging in her face, eyes, and neck, contusions on her neck, bilateral acute pulmonary hemorrhaging. There was also contusion. Sorry, I cannot say that word on the deep vaginal wall. So she'd
mm.
been severely beaten and sexually assaulted and strangled.
Right. Not willingly. Got it. Oh,
Yes,
bless her heart.
and put up a huge fight.
And this is also very personal. Strangulation is, I mean, that's a tough
Yeah,
way to kill someone. I feel like it takes time and it's you're in their face and I don't like it.
right. And there was
Mm.
such a short time for this all to happen in. I
Right.
mean, 70 minutes.
And such a fight that no one heard. It's strange.
Right. Well, I mean, clearly her roommates weren't home.
Right.
My guess is that those people that lived above them weren't home. Like they were younger girls too. Maybe they were out for the night too. And then all the way on the third floor, maybe it's possible that you couldn't hear all the way
Right.
up there. That's
Sure.
my assumption. So this rocked this small community to its core. People were so freaked out that they actually made a media blackout and publications were not allowed to report on this case for a short on a certain amount of time because it just was causing like people to go into extreme panic. This
Wow.
Yeah, this is during a time when no one really locked their doors, and so all of a sudden, they are, like everybody's like, "We gotta keep our doors locked, we never know, this person's out there, like, they're gonna come get us," and this same was said for these, 4 roommates, they didn't lock their door either, so they were like, "The
Mhm.
door was wide open." I mean, anyone
Oh
coulda come in.
gosh. Right.
So, police questioned so many people in the area, sex offenders, previous criminals, etc., and they can never find any evidence against anyone specifically, but they did end up with a list of 13 possible suspects.
Okay. Does she have people that dislike her? A boyfriend? None of that?
No,
No one in her
not
circle would have ever. Okay.
nope, not at all. And I'm not even going to name all of these people
Yeah,
because
13's a lot.
there's a lot of them. Number 1, there is a list in that police report, so I do have the names, but there was nothing like, saying reasons why. Like, you know how sometimes where there's, like, theories like, "Oh, it could have been this person because blah, 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 blah." There really
Uh-huh.
wasn't. It was just like, "This is our list of 13 possible people." Whether
Okay.
they had criminal pasts and they were in the area and they were just like, "Well, they're possible." It's not. was not listed in the police report that I read. So, and I will say they were suspicious of the third floor neighbor, William DeRuse.
Uh-huh. I thought that too when you worded something funny. I can't remember how you said, like, she said that he never mentioned hearing something
Right.
strange.
Yeah, right.
I
Yeah.
didn't like the way you worded it. It was sus.
Yeah. Well, because it is. So,
Oh. Whoa.
well, but anyway, but he has an alibi.
Whoa.
His and he's not on the list of 13 people because they were like, well, I mean, he was home all night with his wife and they didn't hear anything and whatever. So he was in the back of their minds, but he wasn't actually on a list of anything. And on that list was none other than Mr. Ted Bundy.
Mhm. Well, it's kind of his MO, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. She's the type of person that he would have attacked and the way he would have attacked her. He was from the area, so he could have been there because he was known to go back, or at least
Mhm.
he was known to go back at least once to try and find out about his childhood and where he was born and whatever. But they so those were all reasons to connect him, but it's all up for debate whether he was in Burlington that summer. Like, there's people that say, yes, he was, and here's the proof. And then there's people that are like, no, he was not in
Mhm.
Burlington at the time. At one point, he admitted to killing a woman in Burlington, but then later he, like, says, no, he didn't. So,
Mhm.
because he was just a jerk and let me mess with people's emotions and whatever.
Mhm.
Rita's sister, Mary, actually also sends a letter to Ted at some point asking him, did you kill my sister? Like, can you
Oh.
please just let us know so that we have an answer, like, so we know what happened? And police
Hmm.
tell Mary that he would not confirm or deny if he did it
Yeah,
when
he
he got
really
the letter.
sucked.
Yeah, he's a terrible, awful person.
Mhm.
He did, however, make a declaration just before he was executed in 1989 that he was not the person responsible for Rita's death. But clearly,
Interesting.
I
He
don't
still
know.
remembered it though.
Right. So
Huh.
I'm like, do you believe him or do you not? I don't know.
Oh, that sucks so bad.
He
Oh.
did not kill her.
Oh, okay, good.
Just to let
Well,
you know,
good.
he didn't.
I mean,
So,
gosh.
but at the time, I would be thinking like, well, I don't want to if I want to believe this guy. Like, he
Mhm.
wouldn't give me a straight answer before, but now he's going to be like, no, it wasn't me.
We always talk about too, like not knowing the why and not knowing the who is like a crime. It's a whole nother level of
Mhm.
re-victimization for the families and like heartache and ugh,
Right.
I hate it. I hate
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. So here's where we get to the part where this case goes cold.
Mhm.
Literally for 52 years.
Oh my gosh.
Now, I will say there was like people kind of like some of the other cases that we've done where they like it grabs a hold of some officer and they like pull it out every now and then to take a look at it and like see if they can figure things out. But essentially they don't come up with anything um for 52 years. So in
It's like
2014, I'm sorry.
now essentially, right? Oh wait, 52. Okay. Oh my
Well,
gosh.
no,
Okay.
52 is now. So
Yeah.
it's more stuff happened so much recently, but I still am going to go back. And so in 2014, some detectives decided to pull this case out again, and they send evidence, all the evidence, not all of it, but most of it out to New York for DNA testing.
Mhm.
The evidence had been preserved so perfectly over the years, and they did find male DNA on it and ran it through CODIS, but they came up with no matches, which just means that whoever killed Rita was not a felon and not in the system.
Which is crazy because they didn't go on to commit more crime after committing this awful, heinous, violent thing?
Right.
What?
So they even determined that the DNA did not match any of the 13 men that were on their suspect list either, and
Ruled
not
them
Ted
all out.
Bundy either. So
Hmm.
so now it's like, yeah, we sent it 2014, we send it all out, but now we're further from finding the truth than we were when we had at least 13 possible people on our list.
Mhm.
So the case was
This is
officially
so much like my case last week, by the way, where they got
oh,
DNA finally years later and it just ruled out all their suspects. And so then they were like, wait, what? Now no
yeah,
more suspects. Yeah.
right. Yeah, exactly.
So
And it's just so
frustrating.
it is frustrating, but I think it's just so cool that with all of this DNA stuff that's like more recent that we are like closing some older cases because this does get
Mhm.
closed. Spoiler
Yeah.
alert.
Good. And it just goes to show you that you can't just murder people and live your life. Okay? We're going to catch you.
Mhm. Yeah. Yes. Exactly. Even if you're old and gray, we're gonna catch you. Okay, so it was officially reopened in 2019, and the clothes that were found at the scene were sent to a lab in Florida who had some new DNA extracting techniques, which I did not look up what they were, but sounds interesting. And then in 2022, they sent the cigarette butt DNA to a genealogist to try and get some answers. So here we pull into that genealogy thing.
23 and Me and all that.
Yes,
Yes.
CC Moore, who's like one of the biggest in the business,
Mhm.
took literally a few hours to find the match for this
Oh my
DNA
gosh,
this time.
amazing.
Yes.
I know who it is.
Who is it?
It's the neighbor William, the
Yes, it
upstairs
sure
neighbor
was.
husband? What happened?
Sure was. She was certain that it was William DeRuse. She had no doubt. She put it in the system and apparently got matches on both the paternal and maternal sides of the family. So people on both sides had put their DNA, and the DNA in that cigarette butt matched both sides, which is, according to her, very rare that they find it both sides. So police knew this was great news, but they wanted more evidence than just this report, which I don't know why, because it seems like that's pretty solid to me. But they were like, let's seal the deal and find the closest living family member that they can to William DeRuse and ask
Mhm.
if they'll give their DNA to
Mhm.
compare it to.
Is it a
So,
kid? Is it one of his kids?
no, so they find a
No.
half brother named Douglas McGinty, and he agreed to give his DNA. And those tests come back with 97.03% match.
Mm.
So after 52 years, they have solved Rita's murder. But at this point, I will say that William had died in
Oh, man.
1986 of a morphine drug overdose in San Francisco. So no charges will be brought against him, but at least the family has answers.
Oh.
Yes,
Well, yes, at least. Was his wife still living?
I'm getting to
Oh, good.
that.
Yikes, this is
I
awful.
know, I know. Okay, so to be thorough, which of course at this point you're like, well, we know who it is, we know he's dead. Case closed,
Mhm.
right? No, this is how thorough they are with this one. They go out to Oregon to speak to William's wife, Michelle, or ex wife, who had supplied his alibi back in 1971.
Right.
She and William were no longer together, obviously. The day of the murder, she and William had had an argument, and he left the apartment to go on a cool down walk.
Mhm.
She went to sleep, and when she woke up, he was in bed with her. He had no unusual markings or blood on him or anything, so she had no reason to think that he would have committed this murder. So she said, we were home all night, whatever. And then, so I don't think he was home when the police first questioned them, or maybe he was sleeping. I can't remember, because she was the one that answered the door and said, I didn't hear anything. And he hasn't told me that he heard anything.
Mhm.
So I have no idea. But the next day, William said, hey, if the police come back to talk to you, can you please cover and not tell them that I left for a short amount of time, because I have a criminal past and they're going to try and peg this on me just because of that. And she was like, okay, I mean, I don't have a reason to think
Oh.
that he would have done that. So anyway, he had spent 2 to 3 years in prison for an armed robbery, and she believed there was another stint in jail, but she couldn't like recall. I mean, she's older at this point. She said she said that had she thought he had done this, or there was like an inkling in her mind at all, she would have gone to police. Like, she wouldn't have supplied that alibi for him. But anyway, she had met William in San Francisco years before and decided to move back to Vermont, where she was from. And then William showed up not long after that to where she had moved to. And so, out of the blue, like, they kind of were together, but not serious, I think. And when she moved, he like followed her to Vermont.
Mhm.
The two got married on July 5th, 1971, which is just weeks, 14 days, right? It was the 19th, before, 2 weeks before this murder happened.
Mm.
And they had just
Oh
moved
my
into that
god.
building. And she was like, we didn't know any of the neighbors. Like, we'd never even talked to them. She's like, I didn't even recognize her picture when they were like, do you know what happened to this woman? She's like, so there was also that. Like, why would he go down there and murder her when we didn't even have any interaction with them? So she did tell police that he had had a wife before her, but thought she was from South America and had never met her, and William didn't really talk about her. Not long after, like weeks, well, no, not weeks. I guess it was in the fall of 71. So a couple months after the murder, William left and moved to Thailand to become a Buddhist monk. She couldn't remember.
Okay.
I know, right? This is so random. She
Yeah.
couldn't remember the exact details as to why she didn't go because she was like, "We were both supposed to go, but only he went." I don't know if we just didn't have the money at the time. I mean, like her memory is like,
Mhm.
52 years later. But anyway, he goes to become a Buddhist monk. She followed a few months later and they were together for a short time, but then he left again.
You can't be married and be a monk?
Well, she then became a nun there,
What is happening?
and they didn't have much of a relationship because they weren't allowed to.
Yeah.
But then he disappeared again and went somewhere, which I don't remember where it was. And when he came back, she was like, "Yeah, no, I'm not. We're not together anymore. Like this is, yeah, done. We're done."
Well, that's the weirdest relationship I've ever heard of, I think.
Are you like seriously for real? Well, wait, there's an even weirder one. Well, not even weirder. That's probably the weirdest one. But okay, she has now changed her name. Her name is Kailas Nagarajuna now, and
Okay.
she lives in Oregon. I'm sure she was like, I don't want to be tied to this guy anymore.
Oh, that's why she changed her name.
I'm
Okay.
assuming it doesn't stay, but anyway. Police also found out that he had been married a third time after Michelle.
As a monk?
No, well, he had moved back to San Francisco and was like, according to Sarah, because okay, so he married Sarah Hepting, and they were like, well, let's go talk to her too and see what else we can find out about this guy. And they had married in 1974, so a few years later. She had met him in San Francisco because that's where he'd moved, and his name, or he was known back then as Dutch. And he was some sort of, she described as a like a guru, still like a Buddhist monk, and kind of had this like weird control over people with the way he spoke and acted. So it's kind of, he sounds like almost like he was like kind of like a
Uh,
cult leader or
yes, that's exactly what I was thinking of, like that Nexium guy.
yeah, yeah. So she kind of was like, I guess kind of mesmerized by him, and that's how they ended up together. But anyway, she remembers one night when a friend of hers was visiting. They were sitting around having drinks, and William all of a sudden just pulls out this pocket knife that he like always has on him and just stabs the friend out of nowhere. So he gets arrested and comes home the next day and acts like nothing happened, but then later is like, "So," and to Sarah, "Did I stab you?" And she was like, "No, you stabbed Ophelia," I think was her name or something like that. And he was just like, "Hmm," and just like walked away like whatever. And another
What
time
in the hell?
I know, he's a weird person. Well, at least now we're like, well, he actually has the ability of being violent because Michelle was like, I didn't have a reason to think he would do something like this. Like he
But he
didn't.
had a criminal past.
Right,
I
armed
disagree,
robbery.
Michelle. I disagree.
Right. Anyway, but this is like stabbing, and then he also apparently one time strangled Sarah to the point that she almost passed out. So, clearly manual strangulation is his thing. He was also arrested for purchasing an AR-15 at some point and spent 5 to 7 days in jail and then just came back to live with her like nothing had happened. So, the two traveled around a bit like nomads, and at some time in 1978, Sarah caught him in bed with another woman, so she left him and didn't look back. And she met somebody else and moved on with her life. And then he died in 1986. So police do believe and would not be surprised if he is tied to other crimes. However, they have
Mhm.
not found any yet. So nothing,
Mm.
like there's no like DNA out there for cold cases that. So anyway, but how freaking weird is all that? Like,
That is real weird. I that's this is probably one of the weirdest cases we have ever done. And
yeah.
poor Rita.
Yes, poor
I mean,
Rita.
thank God we found your killer. I'm sorry for her family that there's no justice, but like, what just happened?
I know. I know. So he gets mad, leaves to go for his cool down walk, happens upon her, and is just like, I'm going to do this right now. I mean, that has to be exactly how it happened.
He had to have been a weird dude, right?
Well, yeah, I'm sure he
And
was.
so, in my opinion, I feel like if a weird dude, married or not, comes to you and says, "Listen, could you lie for me to the police related to a murder?" That's a red flag, Michelle.
Mhm.
I mean, I'm not blaming her, but like, kind of
Mhm.
judging slightly. you know?
Slightly,
Or
yeah.
like even later when he gets even weirder,
Right,
then come forward and be like, "Listen, we lived in a house with a murderer and he asked me to lie.
right.
And he
Yeah,
really did leave and go for a walk."
mhm.
Come later, 5 years later, 10 years later.
Well, yeah, especially after, like, they're not together and he was
Mhm.
clearly kind of, like, a little off with the whole leaving for
And she
Thailand, like
became a nun, like, she married Jesus. God's gonna tell you to tell the truth
which I
at
think
some
is
point.
interesting because it was in the same place, so it was like, do the Buddhists have a version of nun? Because nun was what was mentioned, but
Oh, I have literally
nun
no
is what
idea.
I think of a Catholic nun,
Right. Oh, but
but
maybe there's a Buddhist nun is what you're
I'm
saying?
thinking
Oh.
that because they were in the same, like, place. Like, he was a monk,
Well,
she was a nun. I didn't look into that because I was like,
huh.
I don't care about the
I'm
tangent that
shocked
it could go on.
actually because we
I
look
know,
into weird stuff that
I
have
know,
nothing to do with the case all the time.
I know, I know.
I
So
well, either way, she found a higher power that
right,
would have urged her to come forward and tell the truth about her weird husband who asked her to lie to the police related to a murder.
yeah,
Like, I
yeah.
don't like that.
I know, and it clearly at some point she decides to change her name
Mhm.
for a reason, and obviously it just was solved last year, so did she think I don't know, but they did say that they're not because people have asked, like, if they're gonna bring charges against her, and they were like, "No, there's no point in it. It's not gonna do anything."
Charges against her. Well,
Yeah,
no,
because she
right.
lied to police and whatever, and
Mm.
they were like, "At this point, 52 years later, it's not gonna do anybody any good to charge her for that."
Mhm.
So,
Well, and you said that she was not, like, 100% there. She was forgetting and her memory was
right.
kinda bad and poor and stuff like that, so, I mean, but still, that was not
Mhm.
cool.
Yeah, no,
That whole
wasn't.
situation was like.
Yeah, there's, like, in the police report that I read, so the police report I read was, like, the one that closed this out. So it wasn't, like, OG, but there was information from the OG police report
Mhm.
written in this, and then it was like, "And now this is what we've done since." And it was basically like, a transcript of their conversation with her, and it was like she was like, "Oh my," like, a couple times, like, "Why would he do this? Like, what?" Oh my,
Mhm.
like, she was still in shock, thinking, like,
Mhm.
"I still don't cannot see him doing this, even though
Right.
he was a weirdo."
Fair.
So, anyway.
The thing that hurts my heart about it though is like I am glad that we found out who did it and, all of that, but like 52 years later, her parents are not like they
Yeah.
weren't living. They didn't ever live to see the person named, and I
Mhm.
hate that.
Yeah, sister is and brother.
Yeah, which is great, but it's
Mhm.
like your baby.
Right. Yeah, I think dad died, like, in the '90s maybe, and mom was, like, early 2000s, I think.
Mhm. That's sad.
But
Wow. Okay. Well, we're watching you, Vermont.
right?
Mhm. And that's wild. That's everything about that was wild. Ted Bundy, monks,
I
like
know.
the whole thing was crazy.
When I first started looking at it, I was like, "Why is Ted Bundy," like, if sometimes it shows, like, pictures on Google, I'm
Mhm.
like, "Why is Ted Bundy's picture on there?"
Mhm.
Like, what's going
I
on?
tell you what, sometimes these little cases are just they're bananas.
Mhm. Yeah, I don't know why this one hasn't covered, especially I mean, maybe it is like, talked about briefly in stuff about Ted Bundy.
Or maybe it's just because it's so recent that it hasn't hit
Well,
the Dateline circuit yet, or you know what I'm saying?
right, but he was connected to it years and years ago. Like, there was a
Clearly.
connection of him with him,
Oh, I
especially in
felt.
2016, they had really thought, but then they were like, "Oh, wait, no, it's not." She when Sandy sent it to us, she sent us, like, an article sorry, um, sent us an article, but then later on updated and was like, "This case is solved," because she sent it in January, and it was, like, just sol or something.
Oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
she's
Well,
like, "Oh my
good thing
gosh,
you
it's solved."
waited.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I also would just like to say that I had William's number in, like, the
you did.
first 15 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, if yeah, if I hadn't have worded it the way I did and I was just like they were home all day and they are together and they didn't know anything, like, maybe, but it's hard to, like I don't know, I have such feelings about him that I it's like I'm making
Right.
I'm gonna give this away.
Well, I think it's because I know you, and I know how you normally
Right.
word things, and so the fact that you didn't word it normally and you were like, "She said he didn't say
Right.
whether or not he heard anything." It's like, "Well, that's vague."
Mhm. Yeah. Well,
You're
that's how
not a
it's
vague
also
you're not a vague person, and that's vague. So
right. It's also how it's written in the police report, honestly,
right,
because they didn't speak to him directly at first.
right.
They
Sure.
only spoke to her. So, anyway.
Yeah. Well, thank you for covering that. Thank you for reading that, I'm sure, lengthy police report. I think you messaged me, it was like 30 pages or something.
Yeah, and typically, like, I try and, like, skim those, but this one I was like, "No, I'm getting all the facts because there was some stuff that was in there that was not out there or that was, like,
Mhm.
wrong in articles, and so I'm like, "I'm taking everything from this thing." So,
Mhm.
but anyway.
Mm. All right, Sandy, thank you.
Mhm.
And I mean, maybe who else is from Vermont? Maybe we
Yeah,
need to go to Vermont more often
I know.
in like the worst way possible.
Yes. Specifically this area.
Right. That's crazy. Good case. Really good
Mhm.
case. That was a ride. I was on the edge of my seat the whole
Mhm.
time.
Ooh, yay.
Yeah. You did a great job. So we appreciate you guys. Thank you for joining us. This DNA, it's interesting. We're two in a row now
Mhm.
on this DNA clearing people, and I don't know, maybe it's like a service to the public to go and get to 23andMe or whatever those sites are and just see. I can't imagine being a half brother and getting a phone call that your monk brother William was just connected to a murder from 50 years ago.
Right, and there's so not a lot about his history, like, he states at some point that he's one of 7 kids and his the name of his mom and dad are stated, but she died a year after he was born.
Mhm.
So, clearly, like, he has more half siblings, I would imagine, but I don't know, like, there's just not a whole lot about him out there, about his past,
Interesting.
but
It's okay. I
anyway.
don't wanna talk about him
Yeah,
anymore.
mhm. And he looks
But
interesting, wait till you see a picture of him.
oh, okay, I'll have to look it up. I loved
Mhm,
the picture of Rita. She
mhm,
looks beautiful and, like, she literally looks like a second grade teacher, if that
mhm,
makes any sense. Like,
mhm.
she's so kind looking. So, I hate that. I hate that this happened to her in what seemed like a random way, but I'm glad we have answers in some form or another. And again, thank you, Sandy, for sending this in. And thank you guys for listening. Come find us on social media so that we can see pictures of Pretty Rita and crazy monk murderer weird guy William. And we have a Patreon. So if you like what you hear on this side, you can get more of us a couple times a month over on that feed for just $3 a month. And we'd love to have you there. Either way, we love you. And we appreciate you. And we'll be back next week with another case. And always remember, the world is scary. People suck. Hide in your closet.